After another day of hard riding and stunning scenery, I finally reached Leh. Leh, the old capital of Ladakh, sits right in the middle of ancient trading routes between Kashmir and Tibet. It's high, bone-dry, and virgin territory for something I've been itching to do since I landed in India. Back in California, I teach paragliding, a sport of free flight and big thrills, with the convenience of folding your entire aircraft into a backpack. Manali was supposed to be a paragliding hotspot, but it rained so much the only thing I kited over my head was an umbrella. So, we step it up a notch. The stakes are higher here in these towering snow-capped mountains, cut with zigzag valleys. How strong is the lift? Where is the dominant wind coming from? Where would air traffic come from? What are the unseen hazards? It's real hard to say. There are rumors of other pilots coming to this region, but no one has a book, blog, or record of their flights, if they occurred at all. Essentially, this is unknown airspace. The dangers, and there are always dangers, are largely invisible. I have to gather information from what I can see in the sky and feel in the wind. I must trust my gut and play it as safe as an extreme sport will allow. I have to scout it out extensively before even thinking about pulling out my wing. Aha! Been lost in this labyrinth of alleyways for at least a good 15 minutes looking for the palace. The wing I'll be flying is a tandem. The tandem is less maneuverable and requires a longer, straighter approach in landing, so squeezing into a tight spot becomes a tall order. Most importantly, I've got the life of my cameraman hanging on these lines. The gravity and responsibility that come with that make judgment calls all the more imperative. So clearly the wind's coming from here, I can feel it, and I can see the prayer flags fluttering. No ideal place to land in this direction. Over here we've got some fields. Looks nice and green, but they are rather small plots, and they're all encircled by electrical wires, which means you'd have to clear the wire and then drop down into the field really quickly. I've had some harrowing landings before. Once in Brazil, I tried pushing it and didn't make it, didn't get the lift I was kind of gambling I would get. And I had to land next to a train station, and a little strip of land came crashing into the station. It was a disaster. Landing a tandem paraglider twice as big in these streets would be a horror show. Whew. It is a gorgeous view though, isn't it? Man, I'd love to fly over this stuff, over the gompas and the stupas, the trees and the farm plots and the old houses. Generally, when you come to a new location to fly, it's good to fly in an established site where you can talk to other pilots. They can tell you the peculiarities of the conditions. But here we are, there's no paragliding site that I know of in all of Ladakh. But I found a spot that might work. On this mountain behind me, I can see either a trail or a road going up. God, I hope it's a road, because I really don't want to hump the paraglider up that hill. But from there, you could potentially launch into the wind, and below it there's a soccer field and some bare patches of desert where I could fairly easily land the glider. Step one is to go up on that mountain and scout it out and give the final okay before I actually launch and put my life on the line. The only way to truly know a site is to see it from all angles. So I start walking in the desert heat. It only rains 4 inches a year in Leh, and boy could I go for some of that right now. My lips chap, and skin quickly burns in the high altitude.
Well, I found a spot. Oh, hey baby, haven't seen you for a while. How you been? Worst case scenario, I think we just get a sled ride, which is a straight up to down. But hey, look at this. We're in Leh, India. You've got gompas and stupas, forest in front of us, desert behind that, snow-capped peaks behind the desert. I mean, it's incredible. It would be a sled ride from heaven, even if we got it. So I'm not complaining. So I've taken all the precautions. I checked the wind, I checked the weather, I've looked at the clouds. We've waited for a little more mellow time in the afternoon. I've got my old school instrumentation. But the bottom line is, when you're flying a new site you've never been in before, you know, air is a peculiar thing. You can't see it, but it's there flowing around like water, swirling, moving, gushing. You take your best guess, but there's always variables. You never know exactly what's going to happen. And another big variable, there's Indian military all over this place because we're close to the Chinese border. And they might be a little sensitive to a foreigner coming in like a hotshot on his paraglider. Oh man. Come on, wind! What happened, man? We better take off before this thing completely dies. Let's see. Give me a second.
The wind, it isn't optimal, but it ain't bad. A whole horde of military vehicles, however, start passing right through my launch area. As I wait, the soldiers give me the stink eye. I'm thinking I'm gonna be conversation topic numero uno as soon as they get back to base. Foreign flying contraptions near army bases tend to raise eyebrows, and I'm not sure if I really have legal clearance here. So if I launch, it better be soon. And when I land, I've gotta pack up fast.
Excited, a little nervous. It's always a little nerve-wracking. Flying a new spot for the first time.
You run some quick visualizations, give yourself some reminders, run through some checklists. Finally, I make the call.
Run, 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 run. Run, 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 run. Okay, we're off.
And we're off.
Yeah, relax, relax.
The air is smooth, no turbulence, but no lift.
Yeah. We're coming down for landing. We're getting some lift here, huh?
The approaching ground forces me to set up a landing.
Down. Okay, hold on. Let's go this way. Nope. Back. Cool. Well, it was teeny tiny, but we landed safely and we launched cleanly. There's not too much you can ask for beyond that. Although, deep down in my heart, I want a longer flight. I want to get up, up, up!
Down safe. But at this point, our options are limited. There's no road leading to this little bluff, so the driver isn't coming. We can pack it up and hoof back up the hill, which will be hard and time-consuming. Or we could cowboy up and run a good 50 meters, slightly uphill, in order to relaunch the wing and glide down to a street. By now, the cops and military bases have probably heard what we're up to. We better get out of here, or we'll have a lot of explaining to do.
Run, 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 run. Towards the stupa, towards the stupa.
I'm exhausted to the point of delirium. Paragliding shouldn't be this hard.
There we go.
The run-to-fly ratio wasn't favorable.
I can't believe it. Keep running. Keep running. We're almost there. Keep running. Yep. Keep running. You're good. Okay. We're good. We're okay. Might be a bit of a tricky landing here.
Go right.
I'm gonna bring it right in on this road.
But we got to the road.
Yeah.
And as long as the driver arrives before the authorities do, we'll make a clean escape.
It was hard running up that hill, keeping it stable, especially as out of breath as I was at this altitude. So when we came off, just as we were stepping off, it dinked a little bit, but it was kind of a do or die. And I was like, let's do it. Let's go for it. But when we did come off, it's like a pendulum, you see, and the wing was a little bit like that, and we were a little here. So as soon as we launched, we swung back underneath the pendulum, and that's what created that speed and that diving sensation. Oh, I need some water!
I quickly give the wing a sloppy fold and stuff it into the bag. And we were never here.
We decided to creep a little higher up the mountain. So the plan is, this is the highest road in the world actually. It goes up to Kardungla Pass, the highest pass in the world. And we've stopped about halfway up the road. We're probably at 13,000 and change right now. We're gonna launch off from this slope and down into the river valley, maybe swoop over some of those little farm abodes and paddies, cut back and land on the dirt road. You cannot see the power lines from the air. You can just see the poles and connect the dots. But sometimes there'll be a tree growing right by the pole. So we're gonna choose a safe route, a little more of a rough landing, but no risk of telephone wires, electrical poles.
I was so dehydrated after our last flight with that huge run off the cliff that I apparently became mad as a hatter at the pack-up stage. I must have thrown this wing every which way but loose before getting it in the bag. Now, pulling out a rat's nest of tangled lines, I have to deal with a crazy man's handiwork. And it's pissing me off. Working tangles out of your lines is as much fun as getting your teeth picked over in the dentist's chair. I'm thirsty, hot, and off balance on this steep grade.
One thing lines love to do, if you're a fisherman or paraglider or work with ropes in any sense, you know, they just have a tendency to want a knot. If you take off with a knot, the dynamic of how your weight is pulling on the glider has changed. Maybe one area has tied up because of the knot, it's shortened, so now it's pulling to that side and you might list to that side. Ideally, you've got a nice grassy field, a 5 to 10 mile an hour wind where I can just pull it up, look at everything and drop it back down. But right now we've got about a 2 mile an hour wind, and as you can see, it's a steep rocky slope. It's hard to get your foothold, so I don't have the luxury of pulling it up. I've got to kind of eyeball it as the lines are snaking through the dirt and these rocks and make sure we've got a safe layout before we take off.
There's absolutely nothing ideal about this site. The slope is rocky, the landing is no wind and rocky, and the bailouts, well, there are no bailouts. But I'm launching early to avoid rip-roaring updrafts, and there's a soft wind in our face. It ain't the bunny slope, but it's not a black diamond either. If we're gonna get a half-decent flight in Leh, this is the moment.
Relax, relax, relax. We're totally fine, that's fine. We are coming in hot, aren't we? It's gonna be a little hot. Well, that was something else. That slope was so steep that we were having trouble just staying still as I pulled at the glider, and I knew I pull this thing up, if I have to kill it, it's gonna be a mess. Another hour getting it arranged again and getting us out of the lines. So I pull it, cameraman loses his footing, but I say, it looks good, man, let's do it. Turn it around, try to pressurize it a bit, but we kind of get our legs tangled up as we're going out. So the glider shot ahead of us a tick, and when our feet came off the ground, we had to slide under the glider before we pushed off from the hill. And in that moment, you just see all these rocks and boulders going woof, woof, woof below us. Our feet are skimming these boulders. I douche the brakes. We get right over the edge, and then woof, we're off. Once we were off, it was beautiful. I had great tension in the glider. Flew over this beautiful river valley. Our landing options weren't that ideal. You've got nice, lush grass over there, but unfortunately, it's crisscrossed with fences and power lines. So, second option is this plain right here, but as you can see, it's littered with rocks and it's got a slow decline. So we're trying to come in and the ground's sloping away from us, which creates the sensation of more speed, and there's of course little rocks here and there. Not ideal, but it's better than getting electrocuted or stuck in a barbed wire fence. We pulled it off. We both kind of skidded into home base. I flared the glider as hard as I could, and as we were sliding in, it kind of lost its speed and just dropped. Woo! That was fun. And all these villagers come running up. I don't think they've ever seen anything like that. I can imagine being a kid out in the country and suddenly a guy comes out of the sky and skids into my backyard with this big contraption. It would fire up my imagination for sure.